Star Wars 7 by 7 episode 2633. Recaps, reveals, and a veiled threat to the Starlight Beacon's future? Crazy stuff happening on the High Republic show episode 5, which debuted a little bit earlier than we would normally expect it, and we'll talk about the highlights right here. Punch it! Hey, Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7 by 7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So the High Republic show, episode 5, came out earlier this week, and usually it comes out toward the end of the month, in the month that it's released, and Christina Ariel actually pointed that out momentarily as part of the show, so yeah, they're fully aware of what they're doing. And hey, that's okay. In fact, that's cool, actually. It was nice to get it a couple weeks early. And this episode's structure was a little bit different from previous episodes. For example, there's usually some sort of animated element that is included that, has also appeared elsewhere on YouTube as its own standalone video. Like last time there was an extended feature about the Wayseekers, right? And so this time, no animated feature, but instead an extended feature about a huge, an enormous model that Jason Eaton created of Starlight Beacon. Like, huge. And I don't know how tall Christina Ariel is, but standing next to that thing, like, it makes it seem like it has to be pushing 4 feet tall from like the top of its spire to the bottom of the thing. Like, it is impressive. And there's a long featurette within the episode on the creation of that model. And I haven't been reading the comics because I've been waiting for story arcs to finish. So my goodness, there was a lot recapped that was like, oh, that happened? Oh, that happened. Ooh. And the recap section also is a bit longer, I feel, than what it normally is, or maybe from, say the May episode, right? Because there wasn't nearly as much to recap in May. Certainly with Race to Crash Point Tower and the Rising Storm in July, they had, a decent amount to recap because those 2 novels had come out before the July episode. This time it was The Edge of Balance and Out of the Shadows, as well as IDW and Marvel Comics related stuff. And it's, at least for me, it was nice because I still haven't gotten through Out of the Shadows, full disclosure. And I got a copy of The Edge of Balance for review the day before it was released. September 6th is when I got it. And it was really awesome of the Viz Media folks to share it with me. And I'm bummed that I still haven't gotten through that yet, but hopefully very soon. So there was the recap, and then there was the featurette on the building of the Starlight Beacon model, and then there's the roundtable, which tends to be a centerpiece of these episodes. This time it featured Cavan Scott, author of The Rising Storm, and Justina Ireland, author of Out of the Shadows, and Jen Heddle, who is the executive editor with Disney Lucasfilm Publishing, and they talked about the books because they could finally get into spoilery territory to some degree. And then they get to the question segment, which again, it's just one question. I have to imagine that more people are asking questions. And so I was a little bummed, to be perfectly honest, that they're not answering more of them. But yeah, such is life. This time it's another member of the story group who appears. It's Kelsey Sharp. So this is really fun to see different members of the story group answering questions across these episodes. And then finally the reveals section happens. And as far as the reveals go, like the big deal is that they showed cover artwork for the Wave 3 books that are coming out in early 2022. And as neat as it is to see the artwork for the covers of Marvel and IDW's comic series issues, I feel like the books, that's kind of a bigger milestone. And yeah, so that was rather interesting. And particularly The Fallen Star, which is Claudia Gray's novel, and that's the adult novel for Wave 3. And that cover features 5 Jedi on it, including newly elevated to the Jedi Council Stellan Gios, and Bell, who was Loden's Padawan until that horrific incident at the end of The Rising Storm. Also Orla, the Wayseeker, and Buryaga, the Jedi Padawan, who's a Wookiee, and Indira, another Jedi as well. And they're in some place where there's cracked glass and explosions, it looks like, so that's not a good sign for sure. And as far as a content reveal goes, well, they actually had one, and it has to do with the Edge of Balance. So So previously, they had just announced that the Edge of Balance would exist, and then toward its release date on September 7th, they said that it was actually a Volume 1 situation, and so they just announced Volume 2 of the Edge of Balance, that it will be coming out in February of 2022, and instead of Justina Ireland being the co-author on this, along with Shima Shinya, Daniel Jose Older will be the co-author on this one. Now, out of the entirety of the episode, I think there are two elements that are especially noteworthy, and I'll work backwards on them. At the end of the episode, Christina Ariel makes a bit of a side commentary about the Starlight Beacon model and essentially says, hey, you know, kind of bad things happen in Star Wars to beloved space stations. And I mean, oh my gosh, like the possibility of implying that Starlight Beacon is not long for the world of the High Republic is actually shocking and also head-smackingly obvious in a way. I mean, like, I can't believe that it never occurred to me that the Nihil wouldn't try to attack Starlight Beacon and destroy it. According to the featurette, it's roughly the size of a Star Destroyer, apparently. Like, that's how they've calculated it. And so, yeah, that's pretty enormous, but certainly the Nihil have enough firepower where they would be able to take that thing down, and especially considering what the Leveler can do as far as incapacitating the Jedi. We know it does that to them. We don't know whether it does that to normal beings also. I do have a feeling it's kind of Jedi specific, but I also kind of think that maybe just, you know, what it's able to do to the Jedi is over and above what it can do to normal people, because it's probably not nice to just normal people, right? Anyway, so just the thought of something bad happening to Starlight Beacon just had never occurred to me, and yet when she said it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's really awful. And of course, that's certainly a possibility. So yeah, that's a rather frightening thing to consider. And the other crazy thing, like crazy in that I cannot believe they let Christina Ariel ask Cavan Scott this question. And kudos to Cavan Scott for his incredible poker face, and Justina Ireland for being like, don't ask me, and waving it off. But you know, even with the side commentary of Christina Ariel saying to Cavan Scott, I told you I was going to ask this question, I still can't believe they let her ask it. The question of the Jedi Master Trennis, who is referred to in Dooku Jedi Lost. And this Jedi Master Trennis, whoever this is part of the Lost 20, which are 20 Jedi who left the Jedi Order for various reasons at various times, basically because they were essentially disillusioned with the Jedi Order, you know, thought their principles were out of whack for whatever it was they were experiencing in their lives in the galaxy and whatnot. And so it's rather interesting to hear about a Jedi Master Trennis being part of the Lost 20, and to see Keeve Trennis, who is a Jedi Knight, not a Jedi Master, be part of the High Republic storytelling situation, and also apparently in the comics is starting to, you know, have something to do with the Nihil a little more directly. And so Christina asked Cavan point blank, basically, is there any connection between Keeve Trennis and this Jedi Master Trennis from Dooku Jedi Lost reference? And Cavan Scott's answer was, yeah, there's a Jedi Master Trennis in Dooku Jedi Lost. And that's all he says. But I mean, good heavens, you know, it's almost by omission still kind of hinting at something, but Keeve Trennis would actually have to achieve the rank of Jedi Master in order for it to connect to that story. And yet, I believe it is Trennis. I don't think it was Lula Talasola, but you know, maybe it's both of them. They've talked about having her whole story arc already plotted out. Like, they know exactly where she's going to end up, and connecting that with Dooku Jedi Lost seems kind of like it's right on it. One thing we don't necessarily know, though, is whether the Lost 20, like, we don't know if they're all evil, right? Count Dooku obviously became evil, but yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that the other 19 left the Jedi Order and went on to be evil. It just means that they left the Jedi Order. So yeah, I think there's obviously still a lot to learn, but I cannot believe they let her ask the question, and I'm not convinced that Gavin Scott's very non-answer answer doesn't just tell us that, yeah, there's probably a connection of some kind. So, yeah, I guess we will see. But anyway, those are the high points and surprises from the High Republic show episode number, oh gosh, I guess it is number 5, right? Yeah, number 5, and Christina Ariel is great fun as always, and there are a lot of like winking special effects and other little comedy bits too that it makes the nearly 30 minutes go really quickly. It does. And that's what I've got for you on this essentially a what to watch now episode of the podcast here, and that's going to do it for today's show. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it as always, and may the force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.